Today we're doing a full tour of the tiny cabin on wheels. I'm also going to share with you guys exactly how much it costs to build and some major improvements that I've made to it since my last video. And I'm also going to share with you some awesome travel plans that I have for this little mobile cabin. All right, so a quick overview. This is a 16 by 8 foot trailer, but the cabin is only a 12 foot by 8 foot. And the reason that I built it on a 16-foot trailer is so that I could have a 4-foot porch on the back here. So this is a deck over trailer, which means that it sits above the axles instead of being recessed down over the top of them. And that makes it a lot better for getting into steep areas. So if you're coming down a steep incline and then it levels out, the back of the trailer is going to have a tendency to want to drag on the ground. And with the deck over, you get a lot more clearance for that type of thing. Also rocks going through creeks, lots of different backcountry applications where that extra clearance is really critical. It also makes for a nice flat building surface when you start, rather than having to frame out around the wheel wells. The disadvantage of a deck over trailer is that the cabin does sit up a lot taller, and that means more wind drag driving down the road. And it also just means it's a little bit more top heavy and kind of up in the air. If it was recessed down, I think I would definitely get some better gas mileage. Right now, I'm averaging about 9 miles to the gallon, which isn't great, but it's not terrible either. The whole thing weighs 4,400 pounds with everything loaded, like firewood and water and fuel. If I could go back and do it again, I might consider trying to frame the front of the roof with a slope or maybe a V-nose in the front for better aerodynamics. But it's really not bad, and all the research that I've done on gas engines pulling 4,000 pound trailers, they say about 9 to 11 miles per gallon is pretty average anyway. I wanted the siding on this one to match all of the other structures that I have on my property. So the siding is just these vertical spruce boards that are board and batten style. The reason that they're spaced so far apart is that I was really worried about the weight of this when I first started. Come to find out, I was actually quite under the payload capacity of the trailer, which is 7,000 pounds. So I think I'm gonna go back in and add more boards in between all these ones now that I know I'm safe to do so, and I think it'll give it a little bit better look, but that's one of the improvements I want to make. Down along the edges, I use my leftover sheet metal roofing to protect from road grime and different things that might kick up along the way. I custom ordered all the windows because I needed to have tempered glass. I didn't want to use those RV windows that kind of look crappy and aren't very well insulated, so I ordered double pane tempered glass windows for this. And the tempered glass is important for safety going down the road. If they break, they'll break into little pieces rather than big shards. And it also is a stronger glass, so in case I hit like really big bumps or something flies up and hits it, it's a lot less likely to break. So one of the biggest improvements that I've made since the last video is finishing this exterior door trim. I use the same stuff I used for the siding to go around it with 45s and then stained it with paraffin. I also gave the door a really rustic look by burning it with a torch. And it was a pretty bold move to just go ahead and take a torch to the door, because once you start doing that, it's pretty hard to undo it. But I think it came out looking awesome. After I was done torching it, I went over with a layer of paraffin as well. I've got these two big storage boxes on the front, which double as nice places to sit on the porch. I'm sure a lot of you guys recognize this design from my buddy Truckhouse Life's camper. And for those of you who haven't already heard, me and Tim are good friends. We've been friends for close to 20 years. We share a lot of building ideas, and this was definitely one of his design features that I decided to steal. So thanks, Timmy. I keep all my firewood for the wood stove in this box, as well as my propane bottle that runs to my oven. And in this other box, I keep my electrical ins and outs. So if I need to charge my power station or put a generator or anything like that, I put it in here. I think down the road, I am gonna install a diesel heater, and it'll go in this box. So plenty of storage for future improvements. All right, I will take you guys inside. So when you first walk inside, you've got your coat rack over here, which doubles as a flute holder, and the wood stove here. Got my lights and the porch light switch here. One of the big improvements that I've also made was the interior door trim. This was something that I didn't finish on my bunkhouse, and I got no shortage of crap about it from you guys in the comment section. So I went ahead and made sure to do a nice interior door trim on this one so that I could keep all the haters at bay. For this trim, I just used the same stuff as my exterior siding, live edge spruce, but I sanded this stuff down and also used a layer of Danish oil on it to make sure it was kind of finished up for interior use. I think my favorite part of this cabin is this nice dinette that I built. I planned the whole thing around this dinette, including the width of the window and the height of the window, so that you could sit here and drink coffee or eat a meal and look out over the scenery of wherever you happen to be. Another big improvement that I just did yesterday was to sand this table down and add another coat of the polyurethane finish, which makes 4 coats. And finally, it's now glassy smooth. And if you spill a little bit of food on here or whatever, you can just wipe it right off. Before, I only had 3 coats on it, and if you got something on there and tried to wipe it, it would sort of work itself into the grain, and just wasn't like a fully protective seal over the top of the table, which really wasn't working well for cleaning up and getting nice and sparkly clean. So now it's all glassy smooth. So if you're gonna do this, I would say do 3 coats, sand it all down, and then do a whole nother top coat of that polyurethane finish, and it'll be nice and smooth for you. So not only is the dinette a great spot to sit and eat and hang out, it's also a great spot for storage. So underneath each one of these benches, I've got a big storage area for things like cleaning supplies and my axe and extra food and cookware, all sorts of different things. So this dinette also doubles as an extra bed. You pop the table off, pull out your support bar, and then this just slides into these runners that I put here. Like that. Voila! These come together and you've got yourself another bed. And it's about 6 foot, so most of my friends aren't much taller than 6 foot. It's a nice little spot to be. So if your buddy's coming along with you hunting or something like that, you don't have to share the bed. One thing about these camper table stands is that the table is a little wobbly, but my friend Chad had a good idea to have a little thing drop down that has dowels that sort of like lock it into the wall when it's in table mode. So I think I might try to figure something like that out. That way if someone bumps it while it has coffee on it, it doesn't spill. So the only thing left to do with the dinette is to upholster the cushions. Right now it's just the foam, but my wife is going to make some nice upholstery for it, and I think it's going to really tie the room together and also make it a little bit easier to slide on. Right now the foam kind of catches when you try to slide in. So if you guys remember from my last video, I was complaining about not having curtains in here, but my wife has remedied that for me and made me these awesome curtains. They're custom fit to the windows. I think they look phenomenal. And she made them from just a really simple fabric, then backed them with an old shower curtain that we had. And not only do they look really nice, but they add privacy, block out the sunlight when you're trying to sleep, and they also provide a good bit of insulation in the winter. Anytime you have windows, it's nice to put curtains over them to help keep the heat in and keep the cold out. I just think they look really, really, really nice. So I still need to make little straps that'll hold them out of the way, but for right now I'm just using hair ties, and they work surprisingly good actually for just a simple, easy little solution. Alright, so let's talk about the wood stove a little bit. This is a Northwoods Fabrication wood stove. It's the Woodsman. It's a really cheap, simple stove that I got online for only a few $100. So this wood stove is the only source of heat in the cabin right now, and a wood stove is by far the best heat source for something like this because it's reliable. I intend to take this out camping when it's like -30 or even -40 degrees, which is not uncommon here in Alaska. And if your heat source doesn't start on you with temperatures like that, you got a serious problem. So like diesel heaters and propane heaters, you could run out of fuel, you could have an electrical problem, they might just break on you. And in those cases, you could probably freeze to death without too much trouble at all. But a wood stove will always work. It's just such a simple mechanism, as long as you have firewood with you. This one has a good sized firebox on it, unlike a lot of the ones that you see in tiny spaces like this, like the Cubic Mini or the Kimberly. They have much smaller fireboxes, so you can only get a little piece of wood in there, which means that you're going to be stoking your fire every couple of hours in order to keep it warm. But this one, you can put a substantial chunk in there and it'll stay glowing for a really long time, especially with the choke pulled way down. My only complaint about this stove is that the air intake doesn't have any screens behind the holes, so occasionally I'll get like a pop from the spruce and a spark will fly out and hit the floor. And since I don't have a hearth, that could be a big problem. The reason I don't have a hearth is because there's not much space in here, and I was also trying to save weight. I might try to figure out some little pad here to add in the future, but for right now, I just have to watch it really carefully. And I think what I'll do is I'll go in and add some wire screening behind these air intakes to keep the big pieces from popping out. Not only is it a really safe and reliable heat source, it is also the most cozy thing that you can have in a cabin. It's got glass on it so you can see a little bit of the fire kind of glowing. And just sitting by the wood stove in a cabin is like what it's all about to me. So I wanted to make sure to have a wood stove. I did put a heat shield back here since it's very tight clearances. This helps keep the wall from getting too hot. I've had a lot of people ask me if this actually keeps the cabin warm or if it just takes the edge off. And let me tell you what, this thing keeps it more than warm in here. In fact, the problem with it is that it cooks it out pretty easily if it's not really cold outside. The BTUs that this thing puts off is just insane. The whole cabin is insulated with spray foam insulation, and that keeps it draft free and does a really good job of keeping the heat in. I also can use the top of this for boiling water or cooking stuff. All right, this is my kitchen. I love cooking, especially while I'm out camping. So I wanted to have an actual oven. It's got 3 burners up top. It's just an old RV oven that I got from a buddy for 50 bucks. And it's plumbed through the wall for the propane out to the bottle in the front porch. The fridge is an EcoFlow battery-powered fridge. It will last about 2 or 3 days on a single charge. But if it dies, I can just plug it in underneath here and charge the battery back up, or just run it right off my power station. One of the improvements that I want to make is building some kind of like little runner for this thing, maybe with like little wheels or something, so that I can just pull it and have it slide out like a drawer really easily. Right now I just grab it and pull it out. I put felt on the bottom of the feet so it slides really nice, but that'd be one of the improvements I want to make to this thing eventually. Above the oven here, I've got a peel and stick backsplash. It's like real stone, but really easy to install. It's just peel and stick. And it didn't come out perfect, but I think it looks good enough. I built this little storage cabinet above the oven. It was going to be like a range that had a vent pulling out of it, but I didn't end up doing that. But it's just a great place to keep stuff. Coffee and little things that I grab a lot when I'm in the kitchen. I also added this little LED light bar underneath, which makes a big difference when you're cooking to have your stovetop illuminated. And yeah, I think it's just a nice little touch. I also went in and caulked around all the edges of the sink and along the backsplash and the stove with the silicone caulking, and I know that a lot of people had complained that I hadn't done that, so that has now been done. I've also got this cool little Dometic faucet here. I got it at a local camper shop, and it's magnetic. It sticks to this little base plate, and you just tap twice on the top and out comes the water, which just runs down to a jug that I have over here on the side. So super simple. I just take this jug, fill it with water, bring it in. I put it down here in between the bed and the counter, and then boom, I've got water on demand. This is a really simple setup. It's battery powered. And when the battery does die on the sink, I can just plug it in right here and recharge it. So I finally got around to adding handles onto these cabinet doors, which again, I have my wife to thank for. She got these from, I think, like willow branches, and then just found the perfect little angled pieces, whittled them down and stained them, and then cut them flush so that they would sit flat against here. And I think they just look awesome. The more live edge stuff that you can get in a cabin like this really just makes it feel rustic. And in addition to these handles, I finally built some shelves, so now I can keep my silverware and kettles and cook stuff all on these 3 different shelves. And man, what a difference that makes for keeping storage organized and clean. So originally I was just gonna have the sink drain into a bucket underneath like I have in my main cabin, but realized that I was gonna lose all this awesome storage space if I did that. So instead, I got this adapter that attaches to your sink basket and then goes into a garden hose. And then that garden hose goes down behind all the shelves and out through the floor. And that way I don't have to empty a water bucket or deal with anything like that, and I get all this great storage space. I know some people might take issue with having a sink that just drains straight out, but I don't put anything down my sink that isn't biodegradable. It's mostly just water and maybe a little bit of dish soap and some spats of toothpaste once in a while, so to me it's not a big deal. So in order to get the most countertop space into here without interfering with my bed that slides out, I built out this little bump out for the counters. That way the bed can slide in underneath it, but you still get all this nice counter space up here. All right, so speaking of that, this is my nice couch. It's very comfortable. I can sit back and relax, watch the wood stove. It's got enough room for like 4 people on it to sit comfortably. And then when it's time for bed, I just grab the bottom of this, pull it out. I've got myself a full-size bed. And I just tuck down the mattress into the corners. And home sweet home. To me, having a bed that is set up and ready to go is really important. You don't want to have to take everything apart and do some big complicated bed setup after a long day of driving. Then it converts back into a couch as easily as it converted into a bed. If you guys want to see more about this, again, the build videos are the place to look. It is just a slat bed, interlocking slats. These are really common to see in van build videos and other small spaces, and it's a great system and wasn't crazy hard to build either. If you guys notice, I've got storage bins underneath the bed. I've got 4 or 5 of those underneath there that have all sorts of things like toiletries and dishes that I don't plan to use very often, or I can store things like extra food. So that's a really nice added bit of storage. Safety is always the #1 priority around here. So I went ahead and added this little mini fire extinguisher. It's designed for cars and RVs, so it's a lot smaller in stature, but should pack a good punch. And I put it over here by the bed, and I didn't put it by the wood stove because if I wake up in the middle of the night and something has caught fire, I want to be able to get to it from where I am and not have to wade over to where the fire will likely be to get the fire extinguisher. So nice little safety touch. So in addition to the fire extinguisher, I also added this little micro smoke alarm. Yeah, they make micro smoke alarms. It's tiny, kind of perfect for in here. While we're over here, I will show you guys these cool sconce that I got. I ordered these on Etsy, actually, and they're just these like live edge candle style sconce that I just think really look cool. They're so much cooler than anything that you're gonna buy at Lowe's or at Home Depot. Just really rustic and nice looking. So I've got 4 of those, 2 in the back, and then there's these 2 over here in the front. Oh, I also added this guy. This is a hand-carved piece of art from a local artist. He uses cottonwood bark and makes these old man spirits. And I just think he's really cool. He's hanging out, keeping watch over everything, adding a nice bit of touch to the cabin. All right, so speaking of the lights, I will show you how I get power to everything. I just use this EcoFlow power station. It's the Delta 2, and a power station is essentially just a battery that also can be charged and discharge electricity all within a self-contained unit. So this one can last for a really, really long time on a single charge, like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 days with the simple LED lights that I have. And it just plugs into the wall right there into an inlet box, which runs to all my lights and my outlets, my porch lights, all that good stuff. But again, more information on this in my build video, so if you're curious about the nitty-gritty of the electrical system, check that video out. A lot of people ask me where I go to the bathroom, and I just go where the bears go. To me, it's not a big deal. I spent a lot of time backpacking and staying in tents where there's obviously no built-in toilet or indoor plumbing. So it's just not really something that I decided needed to be in here, and nor do I have the space for it. I do have one of those little tiny RV folding porta potties that slides underneath the bed. So if I had to go inside the cabin for some reason, I could use that, but it's just not really a priority for me. I understand that it is for a lot of people. So if you wanted to add a bathroom on for something this size, I would recommend not doing a porch and having that extra 4 feet. You could do a shower stall and a toilet and all that good stuff. But again, it's just not something I really prioritize. I have no problem going outside. And as far as a shower, I'm also pretty used to going a pretty long time with no shower. And so if I absolutely have to wash, I do have a little camping shower bag that you fill with water. You let it sit in the sun for a while and it heats up, and you can just hang it from something and wash yourself off. You can also just do a spit bath with like a sponge and soapy water or wet wipes or whatever you want to do to get yourself clean. But unless I'm going to be gone for like a long time, like more than a week, I'm pretty all right with not taking a shower. I don't know. I don't think I stink too bad, but there's not enough people around me to tell me if I do, so it's not really a problem. All right, so as promised, I'm going to tell you exactly how much I spent to build this cabin on wheels. Keep in mind that my trailer cost was $3,500 because I bought a used one on Marketplace. That price could vary wildly. If you bought a brand new double axle flatbed trailer, it could go all the way up to like $9,000. Or maybe you already have one laying around in the yard, so it'd be free, or you find one for $1,000, whatever it might be. That number is going to really affect how much the total cost is. Again, mine was $3,500. I also spent $1,400 to have the interior spray foam insulated, which was kind of an extra cost. If you went with rigid foam board or batt insulation, that cost would be a lot less. So with those two things in mind, my total cost was $13,988 to build this cabin, down to the dollar. I saved every receipt for this exact reason. And to me, that's a great price. I looked at some of these brand new travel trailers that they're selling, and they start at like $35,000 and go on up from there to really, really exorbitant prices. So again, $3,500 for the trailer. So if you took that out, you're looking at about $10,000 in building materials. And that includes everything, right? Like the siding, the windows, the wood stove, all the stain, the trim, the cost for the curtains, everything. What it doesn't include is the time and effort that I put into building it, which was obviously a lot. But I also really enjoy all the building stuff. So to me, that's not really an added cost so much as an added benefit of having a fun project to do. Okay, so I've already taken this cabin for about 1,000 miles of road time and spent about 10 or 12 nights in it camping. And it's built up my confidence enough to want to take it on an epic road trip across the state of Alaska. And I decided that I'm going to do a multi-thousand-mile road trip starting next week, driving all of the desolate gravel roads of Alaska, including the Denali Highway, the Nabesna Road, and maybe even all the way up the Hall Road towards the Manly Hot Springs and the Arctic. And lots of opportunities for things to go wrong. So hopefully this cabin is up to that challenge. So definitely subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see that adventure unfold. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this tour video. And don't forget to check out my website at alaskacabinadventures.com. You guys can get my original music or merchandise. But otherwise, I'll plan to catch you guys on the next episode of Alaska Cabin Adventures.